as with Craig being here, it's time once again for Daily Bases.
Craig!
Unfortunate timing to have that charge right before we talk about a serious matter. Pedro Grifol fired this morning, Craig, by the Chicago White Sox as a manager. 28-89 is the record this year for Chicago. Of course, earlier this week against Oakland, they snapped that historic 21-game losing skid. So I think the question, Craig, on everybody's mind, what led to the White Sox dismissing Grifol at this point of the season?
The record, Ben? That's the easiest way to go about it here. Look, I said yesterday on the show that it was going to cost him his job. I didn't think it would be today, but definitely at the end of the season, because there's just as a manager, there's no surviving something like this. I mean, he didn't have a good year last year. He didn't have a good year this year. Good year, to say the least. This is one of the worst years ever in Major League Baseball. And look, they're in a rebuild. It's a really tough situation for him. I think when he signed up, he knew that things would be taking a little bit of a step back, but not to this degree. And like I said yesterday here on the show, certainly you can't lose this many games in baseball and be a major league manager. But a lot of past history, the last few years, I would say, with the White Sox led to this as well. So Grifol, I don't know if he'll ever manage again, honestly, but he'll be a coach as long as he wants to, I would guess.
Craig, just to double down on what the White Sox are doing here, just a few short years ago, this was one of the more promising teams in Major League Baseball. It had unbelievable talent 1 through 9, a young pitching staff that looked like they might be able to control that division for years to come. And it fell apart so quickly here that they really bottomed out. How did we get to this point with them?
Yeah, look, a lot of the young players that they had, Donnie, and a lot of the young pitching just simply didn't work out, didn't get properly developed. There's a couple of different players that we can sort of get to here, but Yoan Moncada was a player that they acquired in a big trade. They thought he'd be a corner infielder of the future. He was not. Eloy Jimenez 2 years ago looked like a player that's a cornerstone designated hitter, left fielder, 30 home runs every year, could not stay healthy. They also had a pitcher, if you remember, Reynaldo Lopez, who was on the White Sox, who they couldn't, get figured out. I know he got hurt, but the Braves, certainly untapped him too. So it seems just like a lot of player development issues with them, not necessarily putting the right players in the right positions. And I don't even know that so much as Grifol's fault as opposed to the previous regime that was there in Kenny Williams and Rick Hahn, who we talked about. They got fired at the end of the season last year, but there's no possible way that you can't look at them also and say that's a part of the reason why this has gone so south.
Yeah. So the big breaking news this morning, Pedro Grifol, of course, fired by the Chicago White Sox. The White Sox right now, 28-89 in his year plus as a manager for the Southsiders, 89-190 as the record. That's a .319 win percentage. All right, now we pick up the home run trot to hit all of the bases we had originally scheduled, if possible. Tarik Skubal, pretty good last night, Craig, in a victory for Detroit against the Mariners. 7 innings of work, only allowing 2 earned runs, striking out 9. The Tigers get a win, as does Skubal. He's got 13 victories this year, tied for the most in MLB. The ERA stays at a 2.57. That's best in the bigs, minus 260 to win the American League Cy Young as the odds-on favorite. Is Skubal going to win the AL Cy Young Award when all is said and done?
Yeah, look, for anybody who watched the show at the beginning of the season, I gave this out on day one before the season started. So I do think that this is going to happen. Minus 260 now, that's a pretty formidable bet to go against at this point. I understand last night in terms of the win, the game was saved by Parker Meadows. Their outfielder made an incredible catch yesterday to save the game for them and to save that win. So Skubal does have 13 wins. I know that, the voters don't really look at that like they used to. But this is about as big as a favorite as he's been in a while. So, yes, I think Skubal, with less than 2 months to go, has got this.
Yesterday, Major League Baseball, San Diego Padres, one of those hotter teams here, certainly looking to make a wild card run, if not even a division run, going up against the Dodgers. Profar got plunked in the knee. Do we get any results back, Craig, and what can we look forward to? Because they can't afford to miss any time. That team is hot right now.
Yeah, and on top of it, Donnie, Profar has been one of the biggest offensive surprises this season. He was in the All-Star game, and he bounced around the league the last couple of years. Remember, he was in Colorado. I don't even know why they signed him, by the way, last year. That didn't make any sense. But regardless of that, they'll hope for the best, Donnie. I don't know anything. Very late night last night to get a result like that today. But certainly we'll find out. Merrill's been great for them as well. You're right. The Padres are playing really good baseball, so we'll see if they keep it up.
San Diego calling it day-to-day. A positive update for Jurickson Profar, batting .300 this year, 10th best batting average in the Big. San Diego 13-3 since the All-Star break, Craig. Their divisional mate in the reigning National League pennant winners, the Arizona Diamondbacks, 14-4 since the All-Star break, victorious in 12 of their previous 14 games. What have the reigning NL pennant winners figured out here?
Probably just dialing it back to where they were a year ago. They were one of the big underachievers in the first half of the season, and now it seems like they're clicking. Corbin Carroll did not have a great first half, to say the least, but look, the Diamondbacks, we knew in the end they'd be a better team in the second half than the first. I think they're just proving that right now. We'll see also if that deal to get Josh Bell helps them out quite a bit with Walker on the injured list.
And you have Arizona and San Diego now in the top two spots in the National League wild card chase. Craig, today in Atlanta, the Braves trying to avoid a sweep against the Brewers with Charlie Morton on the bump. Atlanta a slight home favorite, but 4 straight L's for the Braves. Can they avoid the sweep today?
Oof, gosh, hard to sweep a team on the road 4 in a row. That almost never happens. I probably would have to back the Braves and go with track record and history there, but I got to tell you, I've never seen a team like this make so many moves on a daily basis. The Braves are just shuffling the roster. It's crazy.
Yeah. The daily basis in the daily basis for the Atlanta Braves. Craig, I see what you did there. We'll see you on Newswire in just about 40 minutes. More on the early lineup next. All right, now we go around Major League Baseball on this Thursday. Not a full slate, but a couple of really great games, including a rematch of the National League Championship Series from a year ago. That's the NLCS. It was the Phillies and the Diamondbacks. Arizona pulling off the upset to get to a World Series and win a pennant. It's a 4-game extended weekend set now. The Phils took the final 2 games against the Dodgers to enter this series with some momentum. The Diamondbacks are 14-4 since the All-Star break, 12 wins in their last 14 games. -110. Arizona, an ever so slight home favorite, -106 on the other side for Philadelphia. A flip-flop of the line on the screen, 9.5 the total tonight in the desert.
Yeah, and also you try to take a look at how this measures up, because the Phillies played last night on the West Coast, beats the Dodgers late, but staying on the West Coast with that flight. You take a look at a doubleheader played yesterday for the Arizona Diamondbacks, so maybe a little bit of tax there in the bullpen and or their pitching staff, and quite frankly, just being tired, playing a doubleheader, then getting on a plane and flying back. So if we are lining this game up, I do think we get over the total, to be honest. Rudy Montgomery, decent pitcher here, struggling over the past 30 days, and quite frankly on the season against right-handed batters. Take a look at Trey Turner, take a look at Alec Boehm, Nick Castellanos, but the Phillies lineup is starting to wake up. We already know that Arizona Diamondbacks team is lined up as well, because if you're saying, well, who are they facing? Is it going to be Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola? No, it's not. It's Colby Allard on this match tonight. Left-handed pitcher struggling with right-handed bats. We should get runs out there in the desert. I don't care if they're tired for Arizona. Those bats are still going to come to play tonight. I think we get the total and knock it down.
We've got 10 games today on this Thursday around Major League Baseball, with 4 of them in the afternoon hours, including in Atlanta, the third and final game between the Braves and the Brew Crew. The Brewers looking for a series sweep over the Atlanta Braves, but the Braves are booked as a home favorite at -130. Total checks in at 9. Will Milwaukee sweep, or will Atlanta snap this 4-game skid?
How about this, too? You take a look at hot Atlanta down there, 90 degrees bent at first pitch, 10-mile-an-hour winds blowing out. So we should see some runs and also some pitchers that could be susceptible. Take a look at Charlie Morton on the season. Right-handed pitcher struggling with right-handed batters. You should get some decent at-bats there from Milwaukee. But let's focus here on Atlanta. Frankie Montas is going to be on the mound. From a perspective of the season long, he's really struggled as a right-handed pitcher against left-handed batters. I mean, they're getting the best of them. The last 30 days, Ben, 53 at-bats against lefties, a 277 ISO, and a weighted on-base percentage of 444. But when you look at that lineup today, Matt Olson, 200 ISO power number, which is decent, but a 291 weighted on-base percentage, not that great. Jared Kelenic is going to lead off. He's got bad numbers against right-handed pitching over the past 30 days. Everybody else in that lineup is going to be a right-handed batter. So theoretically, you should be able to really hit Montas. Just throw a lot of lefties out there. They're not doing that in the lineup today for the Braves. So maybe once again, advantage towards Milwaukee. Keep on picking on a team when they're down, which is the Atlanta Braves. Having said that, typically we don't like to go over in Atlanta Braves ball games. I think you might have to. Yeah. That weather dictates it, man. That ball should be traveling today down there in the Big A.
We've seen two overs, Milwaukee winning 10-zip on Tuesday, last night 8-5, but both teams, Milwaukee and Atlanta, recording double-digit base knocks, 16 for the Brewers, 10 on the other side for the Braves. So Arizona, one of the hottest teams in MLB at this moment, matched only perhaps by their National League West competitor, that being San Diego. The Padres, 13-3 since the All-Star break, and that includes a loss in the first game after the break in Arlington. So they've won 13 of their past 15, looking for a sweep today over the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Buccos have dropped 3 in a row, 5 of their last 6. It's an afternoon matchup inside PNC Park, where Pittsburgh is an ever-so-slight favorite at -112.
Yeah, here's what we're going to have to level out. Now, just take a look at the Padres. They're hot, yes, but if we're just going from your momentum is only as good as the starting pitcher that you're going to have the next day, well, Randy Vasquez is on the mound. If we're looking at the past 60 days in Major League Baseball, minimum of 20 innings pitched out of those pitchers, we have 19 pitchers on the card today that qualify. If we're taking a look at Randy Vasquez, he's 19 out of 19 today. That xFIP minus number is a -120. That ERA slightly over 4, but his Sierra number is at 5.09. That's disastrous here. But also, you're getting a little bit of a help. If you're saying, okay, well, San Diego usually pitches to a pitching environment out there where they play at Petco, you're going to get that same environment today in Pittsburgh. 82 degrees, yes, it is warm, but a double-digit wind blowing in. So maybe runs are a little bit harder to come by. But if we're just being honest and looking at the scale, Luis Ortiz on the opposite side getting the start for Pittsburgh today, Ben, he's 7th out of 19 with a 101 xFIP minus number. But here also, sometimes the eye test doesn't pass. I just told you he's 7th on the card today at that 101 xFIP, which is slightly above average. How about his ERA over the past 60 days, Ben? 6.39. So sort of you're saying, two pitchers technically not good ERA-wise, one bad analytically, the other one okay. Maybe you just take a flyer on the over and say, I hope those hot bats from San Diego continue. Because we're not looking at two great pitchers on the mound. We're just looking at two solid pitchers. So let's say two average pitchers in a pitcher's ballpark, and maybe that bails out the total.
The Padres and the Diamondbacks, because of this surge following the All-Star break, now occupy the two top spots in the National League wildcard race, where the Braves have pretty much been all year long. Atlanta now clinging on to the third and final NL wildcard spot, a half game in front of the Mets. Both the Braves and the Mets in action today. The rubber match at Coors Field at Mile High. The Mets a road favorite against the NL's worst team in the Colorado Rockies. -154 the number in favor of New York. I thought we might show you the odds. Okay, there we show you the odds. We'll get the breakdown on the other side of the break, live right here on the early line. Rubber match at Coors between the New York Mets and the Colorado Rockies. The Rocks, the worst record in Major League Baseball. New York, a half game out of the third and final National League wildcard spot, only behind their divisional foe, the Braves. These are the ones you must win. Total of 10.5. The Mets, a -154 road favorite in Colorado. Will they get the job done?
I think they probably will because they are the better team. But also, now you're taking a look at the standings here, Ben, and it really means something. You actually have a chance by the end of this day to cross over the Atlanta Braves, something just a few short weeks ago you never thought was going to be the case with the grimace Mets here, but playing better baseball and now moving up the standings as a possibility. Here's the issue also. You take a look at Austin Gomber. He's 6 out of 19 pitchers on the card today with an xFIP minus number. The reason why it's very important to use that xFIP minus is it does take the league into account and also the ballparks that you pitch in. Austin Gomber, an unfair disadvantage for him as he pitches most of his games at home in Colorado in elevation because his 101 is good for a 6, but his ERA is the highest on the card at 6.39. But the reason is, hey, 5 innings pitched, 5 earned runs in Colorado is the norm at this point, as opposed to him pitching all his performances at Petco Park. But if we settle on and take a look at what Gomber doesn't do well, he's a left-handed pitcher. Where does he struggle? Of course, it's against right-handed batters. Last 30 days, a 371 ISO and a weighted on-base percentage of 413. That's through 73 batters. So you immediately want to line up those right-handed batters in the lineup, which Lindor is a switch hitter. He'll bat from the right side today. Pete Alonso, who doesn't have great power numbers against left-handed pitching over the past month, but still, you're in Coors. That should help. And also, maybe the best batter in the lineup, to be honest, is Vientos here. 19 at-bats against left-handed pitching over the past month. That's a 368 ISO and a weighted on-base percentage of 518. I do think the Mets win this game, but I would be confident that Lindor and Vientos probably a really good look today at some RBI action, even though we do have temperatures around 75 degrees, which is fine. Maybe some rain in the forecast and a wind that's blowing in, not out at Coors.
As you would expect, it's still the highest total on the board today at 10.5. It is the rubber match in Toronto between the Blue Jays and the Orioles. Baltimore successful last night, 7-3 victory. Jackson Holliday back up in the bigs. 3 consecutive games with a home run. He has recorded an RBI in 5 straight for the O's after struggling initially when he was called up. So to the 6 we go. It is Baltimore and Toronto, where the O's are a slight road favorite. Total at 9 against the Blue Jays today. Of course, it's Baltimore and New York tied for the top spot in the American League East standings and thus the best record in the AL. Both teams 68 and 47.
Yeah, how about this? Again, 19 pitchers on the card today eligible. 14th on the card is Gossman. How about Dean Kramer? 18th on the card. So maybe we do get some runs, but there might be a bailout situation here for the Toronto Blue Jays starter, Kevin Gausman. Let's take a look at his numbers. Over the last 111 batters he's faced, a 176 ISO, not bad. A 304 weighted on base percentage, not bad at all. Let's take a look at this, because a right-handed pitcher sometimes, Ben, is going to struggle with left-handed batters. That's not the case with Kevin Gausman here. An 0.19 ISO with a weighted on base percentage of 209 through his last 60 left-handed batters. This is going to be a key ingredient in just a moment here. Let's take a look at how he does against right-handed batters. His last 51, they've been hammering him. A 354 ISO with a weighted on base percentage of 416. Let's look at that Orioles roster, which is so talented and also does very well against right-handed pitching. Having said that, though, there's a lot of switch hitters in that lineup. Anthony Santander has been on fire, one of my favorite guys on a night-to-night basis to get an RBI. He'll probably get another one tonight, but he's going to be a lefty. Kowser's going to be a lefty. Henderson, O'Hearn, Rutschman, Mullins, and Holliday. That's 7 out of the 9 batters we anticipate tonight to be from the left-hand side. Why is that important? I just told you. Gausman has been lights out against lefties, but not against right-handed pitching. Could that help out tonight in a victory for the Toronto Blue Jays? That could be one of those calling cards to look at and say, wow, I didn't anticipate that to happen. That Orioles lineup is good, but it looks like the factor is Gausman is actually pitching to his strength tonight against that talented Orioles roster.
DRS, you mentioned Anthony Santander for Baltimore. 2 home runs yesterday, 3 RBIs as the Orioles picked up that 7-3 win. Rubber match in the 6th, rubber match in the Bronx, despite this only being a 2-day series. They split the doubleheader yesterday between the Yankees and the Angels. New York victorious as greater than a $3 favorite with Luis, don't call him, heel on the bump in Game 1, with Will Warren getting the start as a minus 250 favorite. They lost the second game of that doubleheader set. Hefty favorite once again today is New York at minus 240. Nestor Cortez on the bump. Total at 8.5. What's the play in this Bronx battle?
Yeah, rain is in the forecast again, and as we told you, that doubleheader was really against the Yankees yesterday, and they ended up splitting, which you think they should have won both of those games, and probably so based on the price points. But hear me out on Nestor Cortez. Left-handed pitcher getting absolutely crushed over his past 30 days, and particularly against right-handed batters. I mean, off the charts, 72 right-handed batters he's faced, Ben, over the past 30 days, a 391 ISO and a 479 weighted on base percentage. Here's the issue. You're going to get a lot of right-handed batters in that lineup for the Angels, yes, but there are a lot of bad right-handed batters. So the question for me is, can we get a cheap price on a team total for the Los Angeles Angels? Because if they win this baseball game, I don't think they're winning 3-2. And quite frankly, if they lose this baseball game, they might be able to lose, 9-4 at this point with the pitcher they're putting out in Anderson. So for my money, it's actually the Angels and just a straight-up fade of Nestor Cortez, not taking the money line, but just saying, what are they at? 3.5? I don't have it in front of me. It can't be any more than maybe a 3.5 number. I'll take the over on the Angels team total here. A bad baseball team, but they could be able to scrape out 4 runs against Nestor Cortez.
3.5 for the Halos, the over plus money. The Angels scored 8 in the second game of the doubleheader yesterday inside Yankee Stadium in that victory. The Cardinals and the Rays today under the arch. St. Louis looking for a 3-game series sweep. Booked as a home favorite. Total of 8 minus 126 now. The updated money line price. Will the Redbirds sweep the Rays today?
Good chance of that, but you know what? I'm going to go back and take that short plus money price. Kyle Gibson on the mound today, really struggling with left-handed batters. We'll get a couple decent left-handed batters in that lineup. It is a true coin toss, but if you're just going to say, you know what, which side are you going to play? I'll take it here on the opposite side. Let's go with the Rays and take that short plus money price.
Shane Baz gets the start for Tampa.